Adam Caplan from Inside the Birds podcast, SiriusXM NFL Radio at Caplan NFL. Set to join us on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Eagles, Patriots, get you ready for that. And, of course, you can listen to the game right here on 97.3 ESPN. The Countdown to Kickoff show with Tony Bruno starts at 1 p.m. That leads you into Merrill and Mike, 425 on the kickoff. A lot of storylines leading into this one. Who is this Patriots team? Who are the Eagles? 5-4, coming out of the bye. Here they come. And, Adam, are the Eagles as healthy as they've been all season? And if so, is this the time now that we can finally get a handle of who this Eagles team really is?
Well, Mike, good to be with you. Yeah, I would say it is. Certainly in the last 6 weeks because of all the players that have come back. And other than Jason Peters, who, by the way, had knee surgery recently, a scope, he's got a chance to play this week. They'll see how he gets through practice. Yeah, they're in about as good a shape as they're going to be. Crayvon LeBlanc's still a little bit away from coming back. But look, they're in decent shape here, and so are the Patriots, by the way, coming out of their bye. So hopefully we'll get the kind of game we expect, where I think the Eagles will be competitive. Whether they can win or not remains to be seen. But I'll tell you this: we did see some good things certainly before the bye, and Jeff and I talked about it, as well as on our show today, which we just posted recently.
I want to get your thoughts on it. We've been kind of going back and forth on this a lot. The Eagles are 5-4, and we kind of look at them as, they don't really do much that excites me. They kind of look like a flawed team. And there's really two plays that would have changed them from being 5-4 to 7-2. If they won those two games and were 7-2, do we look at this team differently, or do we still look at them as a flawed team?
I would say the latter. I think there's still flaws. The biggest flaw that they have is at the wide receiver position. I don't think it's not even debatable. It is the biggest issue now on the football team because it's setting the quarterback back, not a significant way, but enough where Carson Wentz continues to hold on the ball a little bit too longer, and that too much longer, and that's a concern. So I think, Mike, answering your question, I think that clearly to me, going forward is something that's going to have to get better. I mean, this is, you have what you have, and Jordan Matthews is back, and Wentz trusts him. But the flaws come at this. Like, even if they were 7-2, it doesn't change the fact that the receiver core is not very good. And this is the receiver core that I think most people are being honest with. Deshaun Jackson, we're expecting it to be pretty good, probably top 10 receiver core, if not better. But now it's in probably bottom 10. Not what I was expecting. The other thing, Mike, is who expected all these receivers to regress like they have? It's very surprising.
You know, Adam, one of the under-discussed things, if wide receiver is the most discussed thing about the Eagles coming out of the bye, probably the most under-discussed thing that's very important is that linebacker health, finally, for this team is as good as it can be. I mean, Nigel Bradham is expected to come back and practice, and Camus Grugier-Hill is finally looking better after the knee injury that put him out for the first month, and he wasn't even the same when he got back. But now you look at them, and they can play their base defense and alternate with Nate Gary and T.J. Edwards. None of these kind of young, unproven guys have to play more snaps as long as everybody stays healthy. And the Eagles seem to have more optionality now and interchangeability with what they want to do against an opposing offense.
Yeah, they do. Jeff, they do. Grugier-Hill is I think he's actually better than Bradham if they're both healthy. And Grugier-Hill had a significant knee injury. That grade 3 MCL, players have told me it takes 10 to 12 weeks to get it to feel right. And we're about at that mark here, so that's why he's looked better lately. And when Bradham's ready to play, whether it's this week or next week, we have to see how he moves. But I think that they're probably best off when they play two linebackers. It's going to be a mixture of three of them where they'll rotate between Bradham, Grugier-Hill, and Gary. And then obviously in base, when they're in base, which is not going to be very much, you go with Bradham. You're going to have to go with Bradham, probably T.J. Edwards a little bit, who's done a good job in limited playing time. So you're right. Mm-hmm. They're better off. And Mike was asking about, are they better health-wise? Well, the defense, by the way, this is the healthiest the defense has been since, really, quite frankly, week one. This is about as good as it's going to get. And it's a good thing because Tom Brady's coming to town.
So to piggyback off what you said about how Camus is really probably their best linebacker, and we've talked a lot, you and I, and even on the show, going back to last year, about Nigel Bradham not really being the guy that he was 2 years ago in 2017. Could you see a scenario going forward, maybe not this coming up game, but if Nigel kind of struggles a little bit where We know the Eagles are going to rely a lot more now on dime than they were the big nickel when they had Sandejo. Do you think Camus could be their true three-down linebacker going forward if Nigel continues to struggle?
Yes, because, Jeff, it's really funny. And so I talked to a couple people who I trust who are at training camp every day, and two people agree that Grugier Hill and the departed L.J. Ford, who got a contract extension with the Baltimore Ravens, by the way, those are by far the two best linebackers in training camp. Grugier Hill made a big jump in the spring and then the summer before he suffered that great MCL sprain. So, yeah, I could see that. Look, when you play New England, by the way, you're a nickel and dime. Not only are you a nickel and dime, but the key here is to understand what they're going to try to do to you. And they actually nickel and dime you as an offense because it's a shallow cross offense. They don't use the tight end because they just simply don't have one with Gronk retiring. And you know it's going to be a lot of shallow crosses, and you've got to be able to defend them. And how they defend them, Jeff, if they defend the correct way, this could be a game where they could steal one. If they don't cover very well, Brady will kill them.
Adam, on the flip side of things, you look at the Patriots defense and the stats are overwhelming. Now, the first thing that comes to mind is the schedule and their opponents, but they forced 19 interceptions already, and they've only allowed 3 passing touchdowns. So can you educate us a little bit on the challenge that Carson Wentz is about to have here on Sunday, or are those numbers a little bit misleading and there's some opportunities?
So, Ryan, I don't know about opportunities, but there's definitely the numbers are incredible because of their schedule. But number two, their execution. Remember, other than the Lions who play a lot of man, no one plays more man-to-man defense than the Patriots defense. This is what they do. This is their foundation. They have arguably the NFL's best corner in Stephon Gilmore. If I'm Belichick, I'm going to have him on a lot on Zach Ertz. Now, you could try Kyle Van Noy. He's a good football player who they acquired years ago from the Lions. He's been a very good football player for them. I expect them. That's the guys they're going to have a bullseye on. Obviously, it didn't work in the Super Bowl, but things have changed. Eagles just don't have enough quality passing targets. To me, they're going to play. I would assume they're not going to change and play man, but obviously how they play the man defense on Sunday is going to be in question. But if they take Ertz out, who else can make a play, Ryan? When you look at when you look at their schedule that they've played, they've been very lucky in that the type of teams that they played, they were always flawed on offense. And unfortunately, the Eagles have flaws at the wide receiver position, which I'm sure the Patriots are. They know it's coming, and they'll have that very well defended.
Is the game going to be won then on the ground, Adam? Because it seems like the rushing defense for the Patriots is
what Baltimore did to them.
Right, that's what Baltimore did to them. So is that what's going to be required here for the Philadelphia offense?
Yeah, but let's not forget Lamar Jackson has done this to everybody, so that's kind of an outlier. But, however, it does bring up a point here. Do they go to a little bit more college concepts? And Belichick he actually talked about it in his earlier press conference this week about knowing what they do. They brought the RPOs back in a big way, even with Wentz. So how do they do it? To me, I think you've got to run a little bit more of college stuff to give them something they haven't seen yet. Not that Belichick hasn't seen everything; he's seen everything, but give them something or a different look that they have not seen because it's harder. It's very hard to move the ball against this team. They've been so incredibly stingy. Eagles don't have Lamar Jackson, but as Jeff made a really good point on today's show on Inside the Birds. Maybe Wentz now, if there's a hole there, if there's an opportunity in a passing situation to run, go run it. Because Carson's looked very healthy running the football when he's had the opportunity to do that.
All right, Adam Caplan, Inside the Birds. Check out the podcast, of course, at Caplan NFL, and the Eagles taking on the Patriots this week. Before we let you run, Adam, this whole Patriots, they obviously have the Brady Belichick, and we always just feel like they're good. But do you feel that this team is a step back a little bit? And we hear, they lost last week. You never want to play a Belichick team off a loss. I mean, is that kind of changed a bit this year after watching them, through 9 weeks?
I think that, and you guys brought up the schedule, although Buffalo gave them a real problem in Buffalo earlier this season, they got to Brady. The key now, Mike, if you're going to beat New England, and when we talk about on a macro level what they really are, New Orleans down in pass targets. They just, other than Edelman, it's sort of a receiver group by committee. You'll see Jacoby Myers. You'll see Philip Dorsett. N'Keal Harry might play this week for his first game. And Mohamed Sanu, who was acquired for a second-round pick in a trade, he doesn't run very well, but they scheme him to get open. Josh McDaniels does a great job. So I think I don't think this is a vintage. To answer your question, it's a really good one. What is this team from an identity? They're not running the ball very well. They make the commitment to run it, but they just don't run it very well. One thing that Belichick and McDaniels do, if their run game is not going well, they'll just abandon it completely, and they'll just dink and dunk, dink and dunk, 3-step drops. They're going to have to figure out a way to get to Brady. If they don't, the Eagles will get smoked on defense. It's all about their pressure up front and how they bring it.
It was a shootout the last time they played. We'll see what it looks like this week. And, of course, Adam Caplan, you can hear them break it down more on the Inside the Birds podcast. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
And Adam Caplan, like all guests, appeared via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.